12 million won. That's the distance between his sister and her next round of treatment. Han Do-jin counts the money a third time, but numbers don't lie. So when a guild office calls offering 15 million for a one-day raid, he says yes before the woman finishes her sentence. He doesn't ask which gate. He doesn't ask which team. He should have. The hospital bill sits on the kitchen table like a dead thing. 12 million won short. 12 million between Dojin and the medicine keeping her alive. Dojin folds the paper, shoves it into his pocket, and packs his porter bag while his sister still sleeps. He never wakes her on raid days. Her worry triggers coughing, and coughing makes everything worse. The subway to Gangnam takes 40 minutes. He stands the whole way. Every seat taken, 32 kilos digging into his shoulders. Standard porter loadout. Ropes, rations, first aid, cooking gear, tent poles. He's carried heavier. He climbs out of the station, and the sky looks wrong. A crack of dark violet light hangs above the street like a wound slashed into the air. It pulses. People on the sidewalk film it with their phones. Others bolt. Dojin has worked 19 raids in 2 years. Small gates, C rank, B rank at worst. Quick in, quick out. This one is different. The violet light writhes like something alive and stretches 3 city blocks wide. Police tape blocks the road. Military trucks line the curb. Dojin flashes his porter ID at the checkpoint. The soldier looks at him, looks at the gate, looks back, waves him through without a word. The staging area sits in a parking garage under the station. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Hunters cluster in groups, carrying weapons worth more than everything Dojin owns. He finds the briefing tent, reports in. The coordinator barely glances up, points to the far corner. Dojin walks over, stops. 5 women stand around a tactical table. He recognizes every one of them. Everyone in the industry does. Choi Aaron, Shield Knight, leader of the Vanguard unit. A-rank tank who soloed a B-rank gate at 19. Seo Dahl, the Hawk Archer, puts an arrow through a monster's eye from 200 meters in total darkness. Kim Nari, the youngest, a healer with restoration magic precise enough to mend a severed nerve. Yoon Hyojin, the berserker, doesn't talk much, doesn't need to. Her axe talks plenty. Baek Seum, elemental mage. Analyst. They say she reads a dungeon structure by the way the air moves. 5 of the strongest hunters in South Korea. And 1 porter with a bag full of cooking pots. Dojin sets his gear down in the corner and starts checking equipment. Aaron glances up, studies him for exactly 2 seconds, turns back to the map. Dahl is less subtle. She looks him over from boots to collar and says she thought they requested combat-ready support, not a bellboy. Dojin doesn't answer. He finishes tying his bedroll straps and moves on to the ration packs. Long ago, he learned that answering people who want a reaction only hands them more material. Nari offers a small nod. He nods back. The briefing kicks off at 1400. A guild official lays out the situation. The gate is rated provisional S rank. Estimated clearance 6 to 10 hours. 5 floors. Boss on the 5th. Standard formation. Aaron on point, Dal in the rear for vision, Hyojin and Siam on the flanks, Nari in the center for heals. The porter manages supplies and sets up a rest station on floor 3 if needed. Dojin memorizes the plan. He always memorizes the plan. Porters who forget the plan get people killed. Or get themselves killed. Usually both. They enter the gate at 1500. Violet light swallows them like water. For a moment, nothing. No sound, no weight, no light. Then, gravity slams back, and Dojin stumbles forward onto wet stone. The first floor opens around them. A cavern the size of a stadium. Bioluminescent moss clings to the ceiling and paints everything in pale green. Water drips somewhere in the dark. The air tastes like iron and old stone. Aaron raises her shield and moves. The others fall into formation. Dojin follows at the back, boots splashing through shallow puddles, pack grinding into his shoulders. He adjusts the straps, keeps walking. They clear the first floor in 90 minutes. Low-tier monsters, stone crawlers the size of large dogs. Eren blocks, Hyojin cuts, Sam burns. Doll picks off stragglers from behind. Nari patches the scratches. Dojin carries the gear and stays out of the way. Nobody speaks to him. Second floor. The ceiling drops. The cavern shrinks into a tunnel system. Narrow passages force them into single file. Dojin maps the route in his head. Left, right, left, left. Straight for 200 meters. Right. He always maps. A porter who can't find the way back is useless. The monsters here move faster. Blind lizards with razor tails. They launch from cracks in the walls without warning. Hyojin takes a shallow cut on her forearm. Nari mends it in seconds. They push through. Between floors 2 and 3, a rest chamber. A natural hollow in the rock. No monster spawns. Eren calls a 15-minute stop. The hunters sit on rocks, drink from canteens. Dojin unpacks a portable stove. Nobody asks him to cook. Nobody expects it. He boils water anyway and makes a simple broth from dried kelp and salt, pours it into metal cups, sets them on a flat rock without a word. Nari takes one first, then Sam, then Hyojin, who drains hers in one long pull. Eren takes the last cup. Doll doesn't take one, says she's fine. Dojin leaves a cup on the rock near her pack. When they move out 10 minutes later, the cup is empty. Third floor. The green light is gone. Everything plunges into black. Sam conjures a flame orb. The shadows it casts drift in directions that don't match the shapes around them. Dojin feels the floor vibrate under his boots. Something is coming. Something big. Eren feels it too. She raises her fist. Everyone freezes. The vibration builds. Dust rains from the ceiling. Then the wall to their left explodes inward, and something enormous comes through. The thing that came through the wall was not like the crawlers or the blind lizards. It stood 4 meters tall. Its body was covered in plates of black chitin that overlapped like armor. 2 arms ended in flat blades of bone. Its head had no eyes, just a mouth. Wide, full of teeth that curved inward like fishhooks. It screamed. The sound hit Dojin in the chest like a physical blow. He staggered back. His ears rang. Sam's flame orb flickered and nearly died. Eren was already moving. She planted her feet and raised her shield. The creature swung its right blade arm down in a vertical arc. The impact sent a shockwave through the stone floor. Eren held. Her boots slid back 0.5 meters, but she held. Hyojin came from the left. Her axe bit into the creature's flank between 2 chitin plates. Black fluid sprayed. The creature twisted and backhanded her with its free arm. Hyojin flew 3 meters and hit the cavern wall. She dropped. She did not move. Nari screamed. She ran toward Hyojin, but the creature was between them. It turned toward the sound of the scream. Doll loosed an arrow. It struck the thing's shoulder joint and punched through. The creature staggered. Eren charged. Her sword carved a line across its chest. Chitin cracked. More black fluid. The creature swung both arms in a wide sweep. Eren ducked the first. The second caught the edge of her shield and spun her sideways. She hit the ground hard. Sam raised both hands. Fire erupted from her palms and engulfed the creature's upper body. It screamed again, higher this time. It stumbled. Burning chitin fell from its torso in chunks, but it did not fall. It turned toward Sam and lunged. Dojin did not think. He was already running. Not toward the creature, toward Hyojin. She lay crumpled against the wall. Blood ran from a gash on her temple. Her axe was on the ground 2 meters away. The creature's lunge carried it past Dojin. He felt the wind of its passage. Sam dove sideways, and the bone blade missed her by a hand's width. Dojin reached Hyojin. He grabbed her under the arms and pulled. She was heavier than he expected. Muscle weighed more than fat, and Hyojin was solid muscle. He dragged her backward along the stone floor, away from the fight, away from the creature. His boots slipped on wet rock. He fell, got up, pulled again. Behind him, the battle raged. Erin was back on her feet. She and Dowell were working together now. Erin drew its attention. Dowell put arrows into every gap she could find. Sam hit it with fire every time it turned away from Erin. Nari had reached them and was healing Erin's bruised ribs from a distance. Dojin pulled Hyojin behind a rock formation. He checked her breathing. Steady. He checked the wound on her head. Deep but not fatal. He pressed a clean cloth from his pack against it and held pressure. His hands were shaking. He told them to stop. They did not stop. The creature roared. The sound was weaker now. Dojin looked around the rock. The thing was covered in burns and arrow shafts. Black fluid pooled beneath it. Erin stepped forward and drove her sword through its chest where the chitin had cracked open. The blade went into the hilt. The creature shuddered. Its legs buckled. It fell. The silence after was enormous. Dojin kept pressure on Hyojin's wound. Nari ran over and knelt beside him. Her hands glowed with soft white light. She placed them over the cloth. Dojin felt warmth spread through his fingers. He pulled the cloth away. The gash was closing. Slowly, but it was closing. Nari's face was pale. Her hands trembled. She had already used a lot of energy. Hyojin's eyes opened. She looked at Dojin, then at Nari. Then she sat up too fast and winced. Dojin put a hand on her shoulder and said nothing. She stayed still. Erin walked over. She was breathing hard. A bruise was forming on her jaw. She looked at Hyojin, then at Dojin, then at his hands, which were covered in Hyojin's blood. She asked if Hyojin was stable. Nari nodded. Erin turned to Dojin. She studied him the same way she had at the staging area. 2 seconds. But this time, something was different in her eyes. She said nothing. She turned back to the group and ordered a full stop. They would rest here. Nobody argued. Dojin cleaned his hands with water from his canteen. He unpacked his stove again. His fingers were still shaking, but he could work through that. He always worked through that. He set water to boil. He pulled out rice and dried vegetables and a small packet of sesame oil. He cooked. It was the only thing he could do. While the rice steamed, he checked on everyone. Erin had a bruised jaw and bruised ribs. Nari was drained from healing. Dao was unhurt, but her quiver was half empty. Siam's hands were red from channeling fire. Hyojin was conscious but dizzy. 6 people in a black cavern on the 3rd floor of a dungeon. 1 dead monster cooling on the stone behind them. Dojin served the food. Rice with vegetables and sesame oil. Simple. Hot. He gave the first bowl to Hyojin. She took it without a word and ate. He gave the next to Nari because she had spent the most energy. Then Erin, then Siam, then Dao, who again said she was fine, and again eventually ate when she thought nobody was watching. Dojin ate last. He always ate last. There was a quiet after the food. Not a comfortable quiet, a stunned quiet. The kind that comes after you almost die and your body has not yet figured out that you did not. Erin broke it. She said they needed to assess. The gate was supposed to be 5 floors. This was floor 3, and the resistance was already above projection. Something was wrong. Siam agreed. She said the mana density was increasing faster than a standard S-rank gate. The structure was abnormal. Then the ground shook. Not like before, not like a monster, like the earth itself moved. A deep grinding sound came from above, from the direction they had come. It lasted 10 seconds. Then it stopped. Dust hung in the air. Erin ordered Dahl to scout back toward the 2nd floor entrance. Dahl moved fast and quiet. She was gone for 4 minutes. When she came back, her face was different. She said the passage was gone. The tunnel they had come through was solid rock now, as if it had never existed. Aaron said to repeat that. Dahl said the way back was sealed. There was no way back. Nari's breathing quickened. Sam stood up and walked to the wall. She pressed her hand against it. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she said one word: collapse. She explained. The gate was contracting. The floors behind them were folding into themselves. They could not go up, only down. Aaron asked how long they had. Sam said she did not know. Hours, maybe days, maybe less. It depended on the structure's rate of compression. The silence this time was different. This was not stunned. This was the silence of people realizing they might never leave. Dojin looked at each of them. Erin stood straight, but her knuckles were white on her sword grip. Dao leaned against the wall with her arms crossed and her jaw tight. Sam was already thinking. Nari was trying not to cry. Hyojin sat with her axe across her knees and watched the dark. Dojin put his stove away. He repacked his bag. He stood up and adjusted the straps on his shoulders. 32 kilograms. He had carried heavier. He said they should move while they could rest later. Aaron looked at him. The porter, the bellboy, the man with the cooking pots. He was the first one ready. She almost smiled. She did not, but almost. She gave the order. They moved down. The descent to the fourth floor was narrow, single file. The walls pressed close enough to scrape shoulders. Dojin went last. His pack caught on jutting rocks twice. He freed it without slowing down. Ahead of him, the hunters moved in silence. Nobody spoke about what Siam had said. Nobody needed to. The tunnel opened into a cavern, lit by clusters of blue crystal embedded in the ceiling. The light was cold and pale. Their breath came out in white clouds. The temperature had dropped at least 15 degrees from the floor above. Dojin felt it immediately. His jacket was thin. Porter gear was not built for extended stays. It was built for 6-hour shifts with a warm van waiting at the exit. There was no van now. Erin raised her hand and the group stopped. She scanned the cavern. Nothing moved. The blue light hummed faintly. Ice clung to the walls in thin sheets. The floor was slick. Nari slipped. Dojin caught her arm before she fell. She thanked him quietly. He nodded. They moved forward. The cavern stretched on for what felt like a kilometer. No monsters, no traps, just cold. Getting colder. By the time they reached the far end, Nari was shivering badly. Siam's breath was ragged. Even Hyojin, who rarely showed discomfort, had her jaw clenched. Erin found a shallow alcove in the wall, partial shelter from the open cavern. She called a stop. They needed warmth. Dojin dropped his pack and went to work. He pulled out the stove. He pulled out a tarp. He pulled out the last of his fuel tabs. 6 tabs. Each one burned for 15 minutes. 90 minutes of heat. After that, nothing. He set up the tarp as a windbreak across the alcove opening. He lit 2 fuel tabs and placed the stove in the center. The heat was small, but in the enclosed space, it mattered. The hunters gathered close. Nari pressed against Siam for warmth. Hyojin sat with her back to the wall and her arms wrapped around her knees. Dahl crouched near the stove and held her hands over the flame. She did not say she was fine this time. Aaron stood at the tarp's edge watching the cavern. Dojin boiled water and made broth. He divided it equally, 6 cups. He gave Nari hers first because she was shaking the worst. The warmth of the cup in her hands seemed to steady her. She wrapped both palms around it and drank slowly. Dojin sat against the wall and counted what he had left. 4 fuel tabs. Rice for 1 more meal. Water for maybe 6 hours if they rationed. After that, his supplies would be gone. A porter's pack was built for a day job, not for survival. He closed his eyes. Doan's face appeared behind his eyelids. Small, pale. smiling the way she smiled when she pretended the hospital food tasted good. He opened his eyes. He could not afford to think about her right now. Thinking about her made his chest tight, and tight chests made for bad decisions. He needed to be useful. That was the only thing he knew how to be. Then something changed, a sound, not from the cavern, from inside his own head. A clear tone like a bell struck once in a quiet room. His vision flickered. For a fraction of a second, he saw something overlaid on the dark stone. Letters, glowing pale gold. They formed words. He blinked. The words were still there, floating in the center of his vision like a screen only he could see. They read, "System activated. Class assigned. Supplier. First quest available." He looked around. Nobody else reacted. Nari was drinking broth. Aaron was watching the dark. Siam was examining ice crystals on the wall. Nobody saw the words, only him. He looked back at the floating text. Below the class line, a new message appeared. Quest. Feed the party a hot meal. Reward. Standard ration pack multiplied by 10. He stared at it. He read it again. Then once more. The words did not change. He looked at the stove, at the broth he had just served. He had already fed them. Did it count? The text pulsed once. A new line appeared. Quest complete. Reward granted. Check inventory. He did not know what inventory meant. Then he felt it. His porter bag was heavier. Not by much, but enough. He reached inside. His hand found packages that had not been there before. 10 sealed ration packs. Military grade. Calorie dense. Enough to feed 6 people for 2 full days. His hand trembled. He pulled one out and looked at it. Real, solid, sealed, warm to the touch. He put it back. He closed the bag. His heart was beating fast. He did not understand what had happened. He did not understand the golden words or the quest or the reward. But he understood ration packs. He understood 2 more days of food where before there had been none. He looked at the group. 5 hunters and 1 porter trapped in a freezing dungeon with no way out but down. He tightened the straps on his bag. It was heavier now. He had carried heavier. Dojin did not sleep that night. He sat with his back against the alcove wall and watched the blue light pulse on the ceiling. The others slept in shifts. Aaron took first watch, then Dao, then Hyojin. Nobody asked the porter to stand watch. Porters did not stand watch. Porters slept when told and carried when told and stayed out of the way. Dojin used the hours to think. The golden text had faded after the quest completed, but he could still feel it. A presence at the edge of his mind, like a door left slightly open. He tested it. He focused on the word inventory. Nothing happened. He tried again, slower. The golden letters bloomed in his vision. A list appeared. Standard ration pack multiplied by 10. Portable cooking stove multiplied by 1. Water purification tablet multiplied by 3. Basic medical kit multiplied by 1. That was it. His original gear plus the reward. He closed the list by looking away. It faded. He opened it again. It came back. He could control it. Whatever the system was, it responded to intention. A new line appeared below the inventory. Next quest available. He focused on it. The text expanded. Quest. Establish a safe camp with heating on floor 4. All party members must sleep at least 4 hours. Reward. Fuel tabs multiplied by 20. Thermal blankets multiplied by 6. Insulated tent multiplied by 1. He read it 3 times. 20 fuel tabs, 6 thermal blankets, a tent. In a frozen cavern where his supplies were nearly gone, these things were worth more than gold. The quest was clear. Make camp, keep everyone warm, let them sleep. He could do that. He had been doing that his entire career. The difference was that now something would pay him for it. When the group woke, he said nothing about the system. He served breakfast from the new ration packs. Erin noticed immediately. She asked where the food came from. He said he had extra packs in the bottom of his bag, reserve supplies. She looked at him. She did not believe him entirely, but she did not press. The food was hot and dense and real. That mattered more than explanations. After eating, Dojin scouted the alcove. The space was large enough for 6 people to lie down. The walls blocked wind from 2 sides. The tarp covered the third. He needed to seal the fourth. He found loose rocks nearby and stacked them into a low wall across the open side. It took an hour. Nobody helped. Nobody thought to help. He was the porter. This was porter work. He set up the stove in the center. He used 3 fuel tabs. He arranged the packs as ground insulation. He created a space that was small and enclosed and warm. Erin watched him work. She said they needed to keep moving. Dojin said they needed to sleep first, real sleep, not shifts in a frozen hallway. She started to argue. He said that Nari was shaking so badly she could barely hold her staff, that Seum had not slept more than 2 hours, that Hyojin's head wound needed rest to finish healing, that even Erin herself had dark circles under her eyes deep enough to hold water. He said all of this calmly, without challenge, just facts. Erin stared at him. Dal made a sound that might have been a laugh. She said the bellboy had opinions now. Erin said nothing for a long moment. Then she told everyone to rest, 4 hours minimum. She would take first watch. Dojin tended the stove. He kept the heat steady. He melted ice from the walls and purified it with his remaining tablets. Clean water for everyone. Nari fell asleep within minutes. She curled into a tight ball near the stove. Seum lay on her back with her notes on her chest and was out shortly after. Hyojin sat against the wall and closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. Dal took longer. She lay on her side, facing away from everyone. Dojin heard her breathing even out after 20 minutes. He checked on Erin. She sat at the gap in the rock wall, watching the cavern. Her shield was beside her. Her sword was across her knees. Her eyes were open, but barely. He walked over and sat beside her. Not close, just near. He said he would watch. She said she was fine. He said he knew, but he would watch anyway. She could close her eyes. She looked at him. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, not yet, but the thing that comes before trust, the recognition that someone is trying. She closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed after 5 minutes. Her head tilted. It came to rest against his shoulder. She did not wake. He did not move. He sat there in the cold blue light with the leader of the squad asleep on his shoulder and watched the dark for anything that moved. 4 hours passed. Nothing came. When Erin woke, she straightened without a word. She did not mention it. Neither did he. The golden text pulsed in his vision. Quest complete. Reward granted. His bag was heavier again. The thermal blankets changed everything. Dojin distributed them without explanation. He said they were in the bottom of his bag. Dal asked how big his bag was exactly. He shrugged and said, big enough. She narrowed her eyes, but took the blanket. The tent went up in the center of the alcove. Insulated walls, room for 6, warm enough to sleep without shivering. Nari almost cried when she felt the fabric. She asked if it was enchanted. Dojin said he did not know. He did know. The system had given it to him. But he was not ready to explain something he did not understand himself. They packed up and moved deeper. The ice cavern continued for another 200 meters before the passage turned downward. A staircase carved into frozen rock. Each step was slick with frost. Dojin hammered the front of each step with a rock to chip footholds before the others descended. It slowed them down, but nobody fell. The fifth floor opened below them. The ice was gone. Instead, the air was thick and wet. Water covered the floor ankle deep. The ceiling dripped constantly. Bioluminescent algae coated the walls in streaks of green and yellow. The light was brighter here than any floor before. Dojin could see 100 meters in every direction. The space was vast. Columns of stone rose from the water like trees in a flooded forest. Between the columns, things moved, long shapes beneath the surface, shadows that circled and vanished and circled again. Aaron signaled the group to halt. She studied the water. Siam knelt and touched the surface. She said the water was not natural. It was mana-saturated. The creatures in it were drawing power from it constantly. Fighting them in their element would be a mistake. They needed to find a path that kept them above water. Dahl spotted a series of raised stone platforms connecting the columns, a path of stepping stones across the flooded chamber. Narrow, but passable. Single file again. Aaron went first, then Hyojin, then Siam, then Nari. Dojin told Dahl to go ahead. He would go last. She looked at him and then at his heavy pack. She said if he fell in, she was not fishing him out. He said he would keep that in mind. The crossing was slow. Each platform was barely a meter wide. The water between them churned with movement. Shadows brushed against the stone edges. Dojin watched them as he jumped from platform to platform. His pack shifted with every landing. His boots were wet. The stone was slippery. Halfway across, something rose from the water. A head, flat and wide like a stingray, eyes on stalks, a mouth that opened sideways. It looked at Nari, who was 2 platforms ahead of Dojin. It sank back down. Then 3 more surfaced, then 10. The water boiled with movement. Aaron shouted to move faster. The group ran. Jumping from stone to stone, Nari stumbled. Siam grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. A creature lunged from the water and snapped at the space where Nari's foot had been. Hyojin spun and brought her axe down on its head. It split open and the body slid back into the water. More came. They came from all sides now, breaking the surface with wide, flat bodies and sideways mouths full of needle teeth. Dahl fired arrows into the water. Each shot found a target, but there were too many. Aaron reached the far side first. Solid ground. She turned and held the line. Hyojin joined her. They formed a wall at the edge of the water and cut down everything that surfaced. Seum pulled Nari onto dry ground. Dahl made it across next, still firing backward. Dojin was last. 3 platforms away. 2. A creature surged up right beside him. Its body slammed into the platform, and the stone cracked under the impact. Dojin jumped. His pack threw off his balance. He landed short. His chest hit the edge of the next platform, and his legs went into the water. He felt something brush his boot. Teeth grazed his ankle. He pulled himself up with both arms and rolled onto the stone. He got to his feet and jumped the last gap. Hyojin's hand grabbed his pack strap and hauled him onto solid ground. He landed on his back, breathing hard. The water behind him churned for another minute. Then the creature sank. The surface went still. Dojin lay on the stone and stared at the glowing ceiling. His ankle throbbed where the teeth had grazed it. Nari knelt beside him and healed the wound. Her hands were warm. The golden text appeared. New quest. Treat and bandage all injuries sustained during the crossing. Reward. Advanced medical kit multiplied by 2. Healing salve multiplied by 6. He sat up. He opened his bag and pulled out the basic medical kit. He went to each member of the group. He cleaned Hyojin's reopened knuckles. He wrapped Aaron's bruised wrist from where she had braced against a column. He applied ointment to Doll's shoulder where her bowstring had rubbed the skin raw. She let him without protest. He treated Sayum's scraped palms. He checked Nari last, even though she said she was fine. Her ankle was swollen from the stumble. He wrapped it. The text pulsed. Quest complete. His bag grew heavier. 2 advanced medical kits and 6 jars of healing salve that glowed faintly blue. He packed them away and said nothing. The 6th floor was dry. That was the first mercy they had received in hours. The cavern was wide and low, with a ceiling barely 3 meters above them. The stone was dark red. The air smelled of sulfur. Heat radiated from the floor in waves. After the ice of the 4th floor and the water of the 5th, the warmth should have been welcome. It was not. Within 10 minutes, the heat became oppressive. Sweat soaked through their clothes. Dojin felt his pack straps dig into his shoulders where the moisture softened the padding. He adjusted them and kept walking. The golden text appeared without warning. Quest: ensure the party stays hydrated through floor 6. No member may suffer heat exhaustion. Reward: enchanted water flasks multiplied by 6. Cooling tonic multiplied by 12. He read it and immediately opened his pack. He had the purification tablets and water from the ice floor. He distributed water to everyone before Aaron even called for a break. She looked at him. She asked how he always seemed to know what they needed before they asked. He said it was his job. Porters paid attention. That was the whole job. Dal drank her water without comment. Progress. The floor was a labyrinth. Tunnels split and reconnected. Dead ends, false passages. Sayum took point beside Aaron. She pressed her hand against walls and read the mana flow. She said the structure was leading them in circles. Something was funneling them toward a specific point. They let her guide them. Left, right, straight, right again. The tunnels grew hotter. The red stone began to glow faintly. Dojin touched the wall and pulled his hand back. The surface was hot enough to burn. Nari stumbled. Dojin caught her elbow. Her face was flushed red. Her eyes were glassy, the beginning of heat exhaustion. He sat her down immediately. He poured water over a cloth and pressed it to the back of her neck. He made her drink slowly, small sips. She protested weakly. She said she could keep going. He said she could keep going after she cooled down, not before. Aaron watched this exchange. She did not overrule him. Hyojin crouched nearby. She looked at Dojin working and then looked away. She unstrapped her heavy arm guards and set them on the ground. The first time she had removed any armor since they entered the gate. It was her way of agreeing with the rest stop. They waited 15 minutes. Nari recovered enough to walk. Sayum found the path forward. It led to a circular chamber. In the center of the chamber, a creature waited. It was not hiding. It was not ambushing. It sat on a throne of red stone like it had been expecting them. Humanoid, 2 meters tall, skin like cooled lava. Cracks of orange light ran through its body. It had a face, almost human. It smiled when they entered. Aaron raised her shield. The creature spoke. Not in words any of them understood, but Dojin felt the meaning press against his mind. It was welcoming them. It was pleased that they had made it this far. Most died on the 3rd floor. Sayum translated the feeling into words for the others. She said it was the floor guardian, a mid-boss, not the overlord, but a gatekeeper. It would fight them. It wanted to fight them. It had been waiting a long time. Aaron did not hesitate. She charged. The guardian moved like liquid fire. It caught her shield with one hand and heat erupted from its palm. The metal glowed red. Aaron screamed and released the shield. It clattered to the ground, steaming. Hyojin was already in the air. Her axe came down on the guardian's shoulder. The blade bit into the lava skin and stuck. The guardian grabbed the axe handle and snapped it. Hyojin's primary weapon broke in 2 pieces. She rolled away empty-handed. Doll fired 3 arrows in rapid succession. Two bounced off the stone skin. One found a crack of orange light and sank in. The guardian flinched. Sam saw it. She shouted that the cracks were weak points. Target the light. Sam launched a lance of ice. It struck a crack on the guardian's chest. Steam erupted. The guardian staggered. Nari raised a barrier around Aaron, who was clutching her burned hand. Dojin moved without thinking. He ran to Aaron's shield. The metal was still hot. He wrapped his hands in cloth from his pack and grabbed it. Pain shot through his palms, even through the fabric. He carried it to Aaron and set it beside her. She looked at him, at his hands. She picked up the shield with her unburned hand and stood. The fight lasted 12 minutes. Sam and Dahl targeted the cracks. Hyojin fought bare-handed. She drove her fists into weak points that the others exposed. Her knuckles bled. Aaron tanked hits with one working hand. Nari healed what she could as fast as she could. The guardian fell when Sam froze 3 cracks simultaneously, and Hyojin drove her elbow into the frozen chest. The creature shattered from the inside. Orange light sprayed outward and faded. Silence. Dojin was already unpacking. Medical kit, healing salve, water. He treated Aaron's burned hand first. The salve from the system glowed blue against her reddened skin. The pain left her face almost immediately. She flexed her fingers. They worked. He moved to Hyojin. Her knuckles were raw meat. He cleaned them and applied salve and wrapped both hands in clean bandages. She watched him work. She said nothing. When he finished, she looked at her wrapped hands and then at him. She nodded once. He moved through the group. Dahl's shoulder, Nari's exhaustion, Siam's frost-burned fingertips from her own ice magic. He treated them all. The quest notification pulsed. Complete. Hydration maintained. No heat exhaustion. 6 enchanted flasks and 12 cooling tonics appeared in his inventory. But another quest had already triggered. Repair or replace Hyojin's broken weapon. Reward. Reinforced battle axe. Grade A. He looked at the broken axe on the ground. 2 pieces of high-grade steel. He picked them up and put them in his bag. He would figure it out. He always figured it out. Dojin worked on the axe while the others slept. The camp was set in the chamber where the guardian had fallen. The red stone had cooled after the creature's death. The air was still warm, but bearable. He laid out the 2 pieces of the broken axe and studied them. The break was clean. The handle had snapped at a stress point just below the head. Good steel, but it had been forged for surface monsters, not for a creature made of living rock. He needed to make something stronger. The system had given him the quest. He assumed it would give him the means. He opened his inventory. Standard tools, a small hammer, wire, binding cord, nothing that could forge a weapon. He focused on the quest text again. Repair or replace. Replace implied he could build something new. He looked at the dead guardian. Its body had not disappeared like the monsters on earlier floors. It lay in pieces on the stone. The shattered chunks of lava skin still glowed faintly with orange light along the cracks. He picked up a piece. It was heavy, dense, warm, but not hot enough to burn. The surface was harder than steel. He carried several pieces back to his workspace and laid them beside the broken axe head. He did not know how to forge a weapon. He knew how to fix things. Straps, buckles, tent poles, cooking gear. He had repaired 100 small broken things in his career as a porter. A weapon was just a bigger broken thing. He worked for 3 hours. He used wire to bind a core of guardian stone to the original axe head. He wrapped the join with cord soaked in healing salve because it was the strongest binding agent he had. The salve hardened as it dried and fused the materials together. He carved a new handle from a column of dense red stone using his small hammer and patience. Each strike was measured, each chip deliberate. When he fitted the head onto the new handle, the golden text pulsed. Quest complete. Reward granted. The weapon in his hands changed. The wire and cord dissolved. The guardian stone and the steel axe head merged into a single piece. The surface was dark red, with veins of orange light running through it. The handle was smooth and balanced and warm to the touch. Reinforced battle axe, grade A, infused with fire element. He set it down and stared at it. The system had not built the weapon. He had. The system had finished it, turned his crude repair into something extraordinary, as if it rewarded the effort as much as the result. He wrapped the axe in cloth and placed it beside Hyojin's sleeping form. Then he sat back against the wall and closed his eyes. He slept for 2 hours. It was enough. When Hyojin woke, she found the axe. She unwrapped it slowly. She held it up in the dim red light. The orange veins in the blade pulsed. She tested the weight. She swung it once. The air cracked. She looked at Dojin, who was packing up the camp across the chamber. She walked over and stood in front of him. She held the axe in both hands. She asked where it came from. He said he made it, from the broken pieces and the guardian's remains. She looked at the weapon, then at him. She said it was the finest axe she had ever held. Then she turned and walked away. That was the most words Hyojin had spoken to anyone since they entered the gate. The 7th floor was a forest, not a cave, not a tunnel, a forest. Trees grew from stone. Their bark was white and their leaves were silver, and they stretched upward into a darkness that had no visible ceiling. The air was cool and clean. After 6 floors of stone and heat and water, it felt impossible. Nari touched a tree trunk. She said it was alive, real wood, real sap, growing in a dungeon hundreds of meters below the surface of Seoul. Sayum took samples. She scraped bark into a vial and collected leaves. She said the mana concentration in the wood was extraordinary. These trees were growing on pure magical energy. The forest floor was soft with fallen leaves. Silver light filtered down from somewhere above. It was beautiful. It was the most dangerous floor yet. They heard the first sound 20 minutes in, a clicking, rhythmic, coming from all directions. Doll knocked an arrow. She said there were at least 30 contacts in the trees, moving, circling. Dojin could not see them. The silver light played tricks. Shadows moved where nothing should move. Then the spiders came, each one the size of a large dog, white bodies that blended with the bark. 8 legs that moved in perfect silence on the soft ground. They dropped from the branches above like rain. Erin raised her shield. Hyojin swung her new axe. The blade cut through the first spider, and the orange veins in the steel flared. The spider ignited. Fire spread across its body, and it curled and died in seconds. Hyojin looked at the axe. She smiled. It was small and brief, but it was there. The battle in the forest lasted 30 minutes. Spiders came in waves, 10, then 20, then a final wave of 50 that poured from the canopy like a waterfall of white legs and clicking mandibles. Sayum set fire to entire sections of forest. Doll climbed a tree and fired downward into the swarm. Nari shielded the group with overlapping barriers. Erin held the center and let nothing past her. Hyojin was everywhere. The new axe carved through spiders like they were made of paper. Each cut left fire in its wake. By the end, the forest floor was covered in burned husks. The silver leaves were scorched. The white bark was blackened. Dojin had spent the entire battle pulling wounded spiders away from Nari's position and stomping on them with his heavy porter boots. Not glamorous, effective. After the battle, the golden text appeared. New quest. Prepare a full meal using edible resources from floor 7. Reward. Portable forge kit. Crafting tools, grade B. He looked at the forest. Edible resources. He searched the trees. He found mushrooms growing in clusters on the burned trunks. Pale blue. He sniffed them. They smelled like chestnuts. He found a stream running between roots. Clear water. He found fallen fruit from the upper canopy, small and silver and firm. He gathered everything and cooked. Mushroom soup with sliced fruit and fresh water. The smell spread through the burned forest like a promise. Nari was the first to sit beside him, then Seum, then Hyojin, who brought her bowl back for seconds without a word. Aaron ate standing. Dao ate sitting on a tree root nearby. She said the soup was acceptable. From Dao, that was a standing ovation. Quest complete. The portable forge kit materialized in his inventory. He could feel its weight, its potential. He was not just a porter carrying supplies anymore. He was becoming something else. The 8th floor was a city, or what remained of one. Stone buildings lined empty streets, windows dark, doors open, dust on every surface. The architecture was not Korean, not any style Dojin recognized. The buildings were tall and narrow, with arched doorways and symbols carved into the lintels. A dead city, built underground by something that understood civilization. Seum stopped at the first intersection. She ran her fingers over the carved symbols. She said they were old. Not human old. Something else. A language she had never seen, but the mana patterns in the stone suggested they were instructions. Warnings. She could not read them yet. She said she needed time. Aaron gave her 5 minutes at each intersection. They moved through the streets in formation. The silence was total. No monsters, no movement, no wind. Just 6 sets of footsteps echoing off stone walls. The emptiness was worse than spiders, worse than the lava guardian. The spiders attacked, the guardian fought. The city just watched. Nari stayed close to Dojin, closer than formation required. He did not mind. Her proximity was not weakness, it was honesty. She was afraid, and she had decided he was the safest person to be afraid near. They found a plaza in the center of the city. A fountain stood in the middle, dry. A statue rose from the fountain basin. It depicted a figure carrying others on its back, arms full, back bent, face calm. Dojin stared at it. The figure looked like a porter. Seum studied the statue for a long time. She said the symbols on the base were different from the ones on the buildings. Newer. She said one pattern repeated throughout the city and on the statue. She believed it meant provider, or keeper, or the one who carries. Dojin said nothing. His chest felt tight. Aaron ordered a camp in the plaza. Defensible position, clear sight lines. Dojin set up the tent and the stove. He used the forge kit for the first time. The tools were beautiful. Small hammer, tongs, files, a folding anvil that weighed almost nothing but rang like steel when struck. He examined Aaron's shield while she slept. The Guardian's heat had warped the metal along the left edge. The warping reduced its coverage by 15%. He heated the damaged section over his stove using extra fuel tabs. He worked the metal back into shape with the hammer. Small strikes, patient, precise. The sound was quiet enough not to wake anyone. When the shield was flat again, he reinforced the edge with strips of spider silk he had collected from the 7th floor. The silk was stronger than steel wire. He bound it in layers and sealed it with healing salve. The result was a shield edge that would not warp again. The golden text pulsed. Quest. Repair and improve the party leader's primary defensive equipment. Complete. Reward. Shield reinforcement plate. Grade A. Mana reactive coating multiplied by 1. The reinforcement plate appeared in his inventory. A curved piece of metal that hummed when he touched it. He fitted it to the inside of the shield. It bonded with the original metal like it had always been there. The shield was now lighter and stronger than it had been when it was new. He set it back beside Aaron and moved on. Next, he examined Dahl's bow. The string was fraying from repeated use in humid conditions. He replaced it with a string braided from spider silk. 3 strands twisted together. He tested the tension. Perfect. He checked Sam's staff. The crystal at the tip had a hairline crack from the ice magic she had used against the Guardian. He could not repair the crystal, but he packed cloth around it to prevent the crack from spreading. He filed a note in his mind. He would need a replacement crystal eventually. Nari's staff was undamaged, but the grip was too smooth. Her hands slipped when they were wet. He wrapped it with strips of treated leather from his kit. Better grip, better control. He worked through the night. When the group woke, every piece of equipment had been serviced. Aaron found her shield and tested the weight. She looked at him across the dead plaza. She did not ask how he had done it. She simply said it was good work. From Aaron, that was everything. They ate breakfast. Ration packs supplemented with mushrooms Dojin had dried from the 7th floor. Sam ate quickly and returned to the statue. She said she had been thinking about the symbols all night. She believed the city was not a random floor of the dungeon. It was a record, a monument. Something had built this place to remember something important. The bottomless rifts were not natural disasters. They were designed, constructed, engineered to draw in the strongest hunters and pull them downward. The city was proof that intelligence was behind it. Someone or something had built this trap and had been building it for a very long time. Aaron asked what that meant for them. Sam said it meant the dungeon was not getting harder by accident. Every floor was calibrated. Every challenge was placed. They were being tested. Dojin listened. He thought about the system, about the quests that appeared exactly when they were needed, about rewards that matched their situation perfectly. He thought about the statue in the fountain, the one who carries. The system was part of the design. He was part of the design. That thought should have frightened him. It did not. He adjusted his pack straps and stood. Whatever had designed this place had made one mistake. It had given the tools of survival to a man whose only skill was keeping others alive. And he was very good at his job. The 9th floor was dark. Not the darkness of the 3rd floor, where Sam's flame could push it back. This was a darkness that ate light. Her fire orb shrank to pinpoints within seconds of conjuring. Torches from Dojin's pack guttered and died. Even Nari's healing glow dimmed to almost nothing. They stood at the entrance and stared into a black so complete it felt solid. Sam said the floor was saturated with a mana type she had not encountered before. Anti-luminous. It consumed photons. Light could not survive here. Aaron asked how they were supposed to navigate. Sam had no answer. The golden text appeared in Dojin's vision. Quest. Guide the party safely through floor 9 without light. Reward. Echo mapping device multiplied by 1. Night vision elixir multiplied by 6. He read it and understood the problem. The system was telling him the floor could not be solved with light. It had to be solved without it. He thought about the echo mapping device, the reward for completing the quest. He could not use the reward before earning it, but the quest told him the method. Echo. Sound. He picked up a stone and threw it into the darkness. It hit something and bounced. The sound came back clear and sharp. The darkness ate light, but not sound. He threw another stone to the left. Different echo. Hollow. Open space. Another to the right. Flat return. Wall. He could map the space by listening. He explained his idea. Aaron considered it. She said it was insane. She also said it was the only idea they had. They moved in single file. Dojin went first. The porter went first. Aaron protested. He said he was the one throwing the stones. He needed to be in front to read the echoes. She conceded. He gave everyone a length of rope. They tied themselves together at 2-meter intervals. 6 people linked in the dark. Dojin threw stones and listened. He tapped the ground with a metal stake from his tent kit. Hard surface. Tap. Hollow underneath. A void. Solid. Proceed. They moved slowly, 50 meters in the first hour. The darkness pressed against them like weight. Nari gripped the rope so tightly her knuckles ached. Dojin could hear her breathing behind him, fast and shallow. He said her name, quietly, just to remind her he was there. Her breathing slowed. On the second hour, something moved in the dark. Not a sound exactly, a displacement of air. Something large passing close. Dojin stopped. Everyone stopped. He threw a stone toward the movement. It did not bounce. Something caught it. Silence. Then the stone came back. It landed at Dojin's feet. Placed, not thrown. Whatever lived in this darkness was intelligent, and it was playing with them. Dojin picked up the stone. He threw it again. Same direction. Again it came back. He threw it a third time. This time it did not return. Instead, a sound came from ahead, a low vibration, almost like a voice. It was guiding them. Dojin followed the sound. Left, forward, right. The vibration shifted direction and he followed. He did not know what he was trusting. Something that lived in total darkness and caught stones for amusement. But the system had given him a quest to guide them through, and the system had not lied yet. They walked for another hour. The vibration led them around pits and through narrow gaps, and once over a bridge so thin, Dojin could feel empty space on both sides, stretching down forever. Nari whimpered on the bridge. Hyojin, who was behind her, placed a hand on her shoulder. No words, just contact. They made it across. The vibration stopped. Ahead of them, a faint outline appeared. Not light, less darkness. A doorway. The exit to the 10th floor. Dojin walked through first. The light hit him like a wave. Dim blue crystal light from the walls of the next chamber. After 3 hours of absolute darkness, it felt like staring at the sun. He shielded his eyes. The others came through behind him, blinking and stumbling. Nari sat down immediately and pressed her face into her hands. Seum leaned against the wall. Even Hyojin exhaled in a way that sounded like relief. The golden text pulsed. Quest complete. All members guided safely. Reward: Echo mapping device and 6 vials of night vision elixir. Dojin stored them in his inventory. He would distribute the elixirs before the next dark floor. If there was a next dark floor. He hoped there was not. Then a new notification appeared. Different from the others. Larger text, golden border. Milestone reached. Floor 10. Supply tier upgraded. Resource quality increased. New quest category unlocked. Survival infrastructure. He read the words twice. Supply tier upgraded. He opened his inventory. The ration packs had changed. No longer military standard. Each pack now contained food of a quality he had never seen. Individually sealed meals that radiated warmth. Soups, grains, dried meats, spices. Enough variety to cook real meals. Not survival food, real food. His medical supplies had upgraded as well. The basic healing salves were now advanced restoration compounds. He found potions, small glass vials filled with blue liquid. He recognized them from guild catalogs. Healing potions, grade B. 1 vial could close a deep wound in minutes. On the surface, they cost 3 million won each. He had 12. His hands shook, not from fear, from the weight of what he was holding, from the knowledge that 10 floors down, in a dungeon that was trying to kill them, he had just become the most valuable person in the group. Not because he could fight, because he could keep fighters alive. A new quest appeared. Establish a permanent base camp on floor 10. Requirements: shelter for 6, hot water supply, full meal service, perimeter security measures. Reward: crafting station upgrade, blueprint, custom weapon forging. He looked at the chamber around them. Wide, defensible, crystal light, water dripping from the ceiling into a natural basin. He could work with this. He set down his pack and began. Dojin built the camp in 4 hours. He started with the shelter. The insulated tent went up first, but it was not enough. He used stones from the chamber floor to build low walls around it, a windbreak on 3 sides. He sealed the gaps with strips of tarp and spider silk. The natural basin in the corner collected water from the ceiling. He tested it with a purification tablet. Clean. He set up a gravity-fed line using rope and a hollowed stone to channel water from the basin to the camp. Running water. He built a fire pit lined with flat rocks. The forge kit unfolded beside it. He arranged his cooking station on a flat boulder. Stove. Pots. The dried spices and ingredients from his upgraded rations. For perimeter security, he placed echo mapping devices at the 3 entrances to the chamber. Any movement within 50 meters would register as a vibration pattern he could read. Trip lines of spider silk stretched across the narrower passages, thin enough to be invisible, strong enough to slow anything that hit them. When he finished, he stood in the center of the camp and looked at what he had made. It was not a tent in a dungeon. It was a home. Small and rough, but functional. A place where 6 people could eat and sleep and heal and feel something other than fear. The golden text confirmed it. Quest complete. Base camp established. All requirements met. Reward. Crafting station upgrade. Blueprint acquired. Custom weapon forging. He felt the knowledge enter his mind like water filling a glass. Not words. Understanding. He looked at the forge and knew things he had not known an hour ago. How to temper mana-infused metal. How to shape a blade to channel elemental energy. How to match a weapon to its wielder's fighting style. The system was not just giving him tools, it was giving him skill. Aaron returned from scouting the chamber perimeter with Dahl. She stopped at the edge of the camp. She looked at the walls, the water line, the fire pit, the trip lines. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she had raided professionally for 7 years and had never seen a camp this well built. Dojin said it was just porter work. She said no, it was not. Dahl walked past them both and sat down beside the fire pit. She said nothing about the camp. She pulled off her boots and stretched her feet toward the warmth. That was her review. The group gathered. Dojin cooked. Not ration pack cooking, real cooking. He had ingredients now. Rice steamed in a pot. Seasoned broth simmered beside it. Dried meat rehydrated with herbs and spices. The smell filled the chamber and pushed back the dungeon. For a few minutes, they were not trapped underground. They were somewhere warm, where someone was making dinner. Nari sat closest to the cooking station. She asked if she could help. Dojin showed her how to slice the dried mushrooms thin so they would cook evenly. She worked carefully. Her small hands were precise. She smiled while she worked. It was the first real smile he had seen from her since the gate closed behind them. He served the food in proper portions. Hyojin received the largest. He had noticed she ate more than the others and burned through calories faster. Her fighting style demanded it. He gave her extra meat without comment. She noticed. She always noticed. She ate everything and set her bowl down and looked at him across the fire. Something in her expression was different now. Not gratitude. Recognition. She saw him. After dinner, Sam spread her notes on a flat rock. She had been cataloging every floor. The environment, the creatures, the guardian, the dead city, the dark floor. She said the pattern was becoming clear. Each floor tested a different capacity: strength, endurance, intelligence, trust, perception. The dungeon was not random. It was a curriculum. She said the statue in the city and the symbol she had been translating pointed to something specific. The bottomless rifts were selection mechanisms. They did not just kill hunters, they sorted them. The strong from the weak, the selfish from the selfless. Most groups failed because they fell apart. Not because the monsters were too strong, but because the people stopped trusting each other, stopped caring for each other, turned on each other when resources ran low. Aaron asked what happened to groups that passed. Sam said she did not know yet, but she believed the answer was below them. Dojin listened and said nothing. He thought about the system. It rewarded him for feeding people and healing wounds and building camps. It gave him nothing for fighting, nothing for killing, only for caring. He was being selected too. The question was, for what? After the discussion faded, the camp settled into quiet. Aaron checked the perimeter. Doll maintained her bow. Sam wrote in her notes. Hyojin cleaned her new axe with a cloth. The orange veins in the blade glowed softly in the firelight. Nari sat beside Dojin near the cooking station. She asked about his sister. He had not mentioned Doan to anyone. He asked how she knew. Nari said she had heard him say a name in his sleep 2 nights ago. Doan. She asked who it was. He told her. His sister. 16, sick, in the hospital. The reason he took this job. The reason he needed to get out. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she said they would get out. She said it simply, like a fact, not hope, not encouragement, a statement. He looked at her. She looked back. Her eyes were steady. The girl who had trembled on the first floor and nearly broken from fear was looking at him with absolute certainty. He thanked her. She shook her head. She said he did not get to thank people for believing in him. That was not how it worked. She pulled her knees up and rested her chin on them and watched the fire. Dojin added fuel to the flame and watched it with her. On the other side of the camp, Erin lay in the tent with her eyes open. She had heard the conversation. She did not let on, but she lay there in the dark thinking about a porter who carried everything for everyone and never once asked anyone to carry anything for him. She closed her eyes. Sleep came easier than it had in days. The 11th floor opened below the base camp through a spiral staircase carved into the rock. The steps were smooth and worn, as if thousands of feet had walked them before. Dojin ran his hand along the wall as they descended. The stone was warm. Not hot like the 6th floor. Warm like skin. The staircase ended in a corridor lined with doors. Dozens of them. Each one made of dark wood with iron handles. The doors were identical. No markings, no numbers. The corridor stretched in both directions further than they could see. Sam touched the nearest door. She pulled her hand back immediately. She said each door contained a separate space, a pocket dimension. She could feel the mana signature behind each one. Different environments, different threats. The dungeon was offering them choices. Aaron tried the first door on the left. It opened into a room filled with ice. Frozen solid from floor to ceiling. She closed it. The second door opened into a jungle. Hot, wet air rushed out. Insects buzzed in the green dark. She closed it. The third door opened into nothing. A void, black and endless. She closed it fast. Doll said this was a maze with extra steps. Sayom disagreed. She said it was a test of selection. Not every door was dangerous. Some might contain resources, rest areas, information. The challenge was choosing correctly without a map. Dojin looked at the doors. He counted 12 on each side of the corridor in the visible section alone. He asked Sayum if she could read the mana behind each door without opening it. She said she could get a general sense. Hostile or neutral, hot or cold, dense or empty, but not details. He nodded. He suggested a system. Sayum reads each door. They categorize. Hostile doors they skip. Neutral doors they investigate. They mark each door they check with chalk from his pack so they do not repeat. Aaron looked at him. She said that was a good plan. Not grudgingly, not with surprise, simply an acknowledgement. They began. Sam read doors. Hostile, hostile, neutral, hostile, neutral, hostile. They opened the first neutral door, a small chamber, empty except for a stone pedestal in the center. On the pedestal sat a crystal the size of a fist, blue-white, pulsing with light. Sam approached it carefully. She said it was a mana crystal, pure, unrefined, worth a fortune on the surface. More importantly, it could replace the cracked crystal in her staff. She took it. Her hands trembled slightly. She fitted it to her staff immediately. The cracked crystal fell away and the new one seated itself as if it had been made for the socket. Her staff hummed. The air around it shimmered. She said her casting capacity had just doubled. Dojin marked the door with chalk and they moved on. The seventh neutral door opened into a garden. Underground, but alive. Plants grew from soil that glowed faintly with mana. Fruits hung from low branches. Flowers bloomed in colors Dojin had never seen. Water ran from a crack in the wall into a small pool. The air smelled like spring. Nari stepped inside and her whole body relaxed. The garden was saturated with healing mana. Just standing in it accelerated recovery. Dojin felt the ache in his shoulders fade. The bruise on his hip from the fifth floor crossing vanished. Aaron's burned hand, which still bore faint scars, flexed without stiffness for the first time in days. They rested in the garden for an hour. Dojin gathered fruits and plants. He did not recognize the species, but the system did. The golden text identified each one. Starfruit restores stamina. Moonleaf reduces inflammation. Ironroot strengthens bone density when consumed. Velvet moss, natural anesthetic. He collected everything he could carry. A new quest appeared. Brew a full set of specialized potions using Floor 11 botanical resources. One potion tailored to each party member's needs. Reward: Alchemy Station, Potion Recipe Archive Grade A. He read the quest and understood. Not just potions, personalized potions. He needed to know what each person needed. He already did. Aaron needed something for sustained endurance. She was the tank. She took every hit. Her body was running on will alone. Hyojin needed a metabolic accelerator. She burned energy faster than she could replenish it. Her fighting style was explosive and the cost was enormous. Doll needed something for her eyes. She had been squinting more in the last 2 floors. The strain of constant vigilance in changing light conditions was wearing on her vision. Nari needed a mana restoration compound. She was healing constantly, and her reserves were being depleted faster than they recovered. Sam needed mental clarity. She was processing more information than anyone, translating symbols, reading mana patterns, analyzing every floor. Her mind was her weapon, and it was fatiguing. He set up his portable station in the garden and went to work. Starfruit, crushed for the base. Moonleaf, steeped for anti-inflammatory properties. Ironroot, ground fine for Aaron's endurance brew. He combined ingredients by instinct, guided by the system's subtle prompts. Not instructions exactly, more like nudges. This leaf with that root. More heat, less water. Strain twice. Each potion came out a different color. Aaron's was deep gold. Hyojin's was bright red. Doll's was clear with a green tint. Nari's was soft white. Sam's was pale blue. He poured them into vials from his medical kit and labeled each one. He gave them out one at a time. Aaron drank hers without hesitation. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she rolled her shoulders, and Dojin could see the tension leave her body like water running downhill. She said she felt like she had slept for a week. Hyojin drank hers and immediately ate 2 fruits. Her appetite was back. The red potion was working. Doll held her vial up to the light. She asked what was in it. Dojin said it would help her eyes. She looked at him for a long moment. She had not told anyone about her vision problems. She had hidden it. He had noticed anyway. She drank it. She blinked several times. Then she looked at the far wall of the garden. She said she could see the individual veins in the leaves from here. She said nothing else, but she held the empty vial in her hand for a long time before putting it down. Nari drank hers, and the color returned to her cheeks almost instantly. She looked at Dojin and said it tasted like warm milk and honey. He said he had added a bit of velvet moss for flavor. She laughed. It was quiet and small, but it was a laugh, and it echoed in the garden. Sam drank last. She sat still for 30 seconds. Then she opened her notes and began writing faster than Dojin had ever seen her write. Her eyes were sharp and focused. She filled 3 pages in 5 minutes. She looked up at him and said this was remarkable. Then she went back to writing. Quest complete. The alchemy station materialized in his inventory. Heavy, complex, a proper brewing setup with temperature controls and filtration and measurement tools. The recipe archive unpacked in his mind like the forging knowledge had. Hundreds of formulas, healing potions, buff elixirs, antidotes, resistance compounds. He could brew almost anything now if he had the ingredients. He was no longer a porter who cooked. He was an alchemist, a smith, a builder. The system was turning him into everything the group needed to survive. They cleared floors 12 through 15 in 3 days. The pace was faster now. The potions made the difference. Aaron could tank for hours without flagging. Hyojin hit harder and recovered faster between bursts. Dahl's arrows found targets in conditions that would have blinded her before. Nari healed without draining herself dry. Sam processed information at a speed that turned every new floor into a puzzle she could solve in minutes. And behind all of it was Dojin, cooking, brewing, repairing, building camps at every rest stop, never fighting, always there. The 12th floor was a maze of mirrors, reflections that moved independently, monsters that looked like the group, copies that attacked with the same weapons and techniques. Hyojin fought her own reflection for 20 minutes. It matched her swing for swing. She won when Dojin threw a blanket over the mirror it was anchored to. Not a combat solution, a porter solution. The 13th floor was acid. The air burned. The ground sweated caustic fluid that ate through boot soles in minutes. Dojin wrapped everyone's boots in layers of spider silk coated with a neutralizing compound he brewed from the garden's moonleaf. 6 pairs of acid-proof boot covers made in 30 minutes. They crossed the floor without a single burn. The 14th floor was gravity, or the absence of it. Sections of the cavern had no gravity at all. Others had gravity so intense it pressed them flat against the ground. Dojin mapped the zones using his echo device and loose stones. He plotted a path that kept them in normal gravity corridors. When they had to cross a zero-gravity zone, he roped them together and used pitons driven into the walls to pull them through hand over hand. The 15th floor was the worst, not because of monsters or environment, because of sound, a frequency that vibrated in the skull, that turned thoughts to static, that made anger rise from nowhere. Nari cried. Dahl snapped at Aaron for the first time in days. Aaron shouted back. Hyojin punched a wall and cracked the stone. Sam sat on the ground and pressed her hands over her ears and rocked. Dojin felt it too. The sound burrowed into his brain like a worm. He wanted to scream. He wanted to drop his pack and run. Instead, he brewed. His hands shook so badly, he spilled half the ingredients. He made a calming tonic from velvet moss and starfruit extract, and a compound from his recipe archive that dulled auditory nerve response. He made 6 doses. He gave them out, one by one, starting with Nari because she was closest to breaking. The tonic worked in minutes. The sound faded to a dull hum. Bearable. They moved through the 15th floor in grim silence. Dojin's hands did not stop shaking until they reached the descent to 16. Between floors, they camped. Dojin used the forge to modify weapons. He reinforced Aaron's sword with a core of mirror glass from the 12th floor. The blade now reflected magical attacks at reduced intensity. He restrung Dahl's bow with a compound string that adjusted tension based on the archer's draw length, self-calibrating. She tested it and put 4 arrows through the same hole at 60 meters. She looked at the bow. Then at Dojin. She said she took back every bellboy comment. He said he did not remember any bellboy comments. She almost smiled. He upgraded Nari's staff grip again with a layer of garden moss that channeled ambient mana into the wielder's hands. Passive regeneration, small but constant. Over a full day of healing, it would save her 10% of her reserves. For Sam, he ground the leftover mana crystal fragments into a powder and mixed them into a paste that he applied to her staff's focusing ring. The crystal resonance amplified her analytical magic by a factor she said she could not accurately measure, but described as significant. He built, he fixed, he improved. Every rest stop was a workshop. Every camp was a factory. The golden text fed him quests constantly now. Maintain equipment integrity, brew resistance potions for acid exposure, create gravitational anchoring devices, cook meals that restore both stamina and morale. The rewards kept pace. Better materials, better recipes, better blueprints. His inventory was a warehouse. On the night before they descended to the 16th floor, Dojin sat by the fire and worked on something small. A pair of arm bracers for Hyojin. Her old ones had been discarded on the 6th floor. She had fought bare-armed since then. The bracers were made from chitin plates he had saved from the 3rd floor creature, layered and bonded with spider silk and mana crystal powder. Light enough to not restrict movement, hard enough to stop a blade. He shaped them on the anvil with small, precise strikes. The work took 2 hours. When he finished, the golden text glowed. Quest complete. Reward. Legendary material fragment. Origin unknown. He stored the fragment. He did not know what it was yet, but the word legendary sat in his mind like a promise. He left the bracers beside Hyojin's sleeping form. In the morning, she put them on without a word. She flexed her arms. She tested the fit. Then she walked to where Dojin was packing up the camp and stood in front of him. She did not speak. She placed her hand on his shoulder for 3 seconds. Then she turned and walked to formation. Dahl, who had watched the entire exchange, said that was basically a marriage proposal in Hyojin language. Hyojin did not deny it. The 16th floor changed the rules. The staircase ended not in a cavern or a corridor, but in open sky. They stepped out onto a stone platform floating in a void. Below them, nothing. Above them, nothing. Around them, a scattering of other platforms connected by narrow bridges of translucent stone. The air was thin, cold, clean. Stars burned in the darkness, but they were not real stars. They pulsed with mana. Sam said this floor was an artificial space, a constructed dimension, not underground at all, somewhere else entirely. The bridges between platforms were barely wide enough for one person. No railings, no safety. A fall meant forever. They crossed carefully, platform to platform, bridge to bridge. Each platform held something different. One had a weapons rack filled with rusted blades. Another held a pile of bones arranged in a circle. Another had writing carved into the stone in the same language as the dead city. Sam read what she could. She said the writings were accounts, records of previous groups that had entered Bottomless Rifts, dates going back centuries, names, numbers of people. None had entries for return. The last entry was 43 years old. A group of 12 hunters, Korean military, special division. They had reached floor 38. The entry ended there. No record of what happened next. Aaron asked if any entry recorded someone reaching the bottom. Sam shook her head. Not one. Dojin processed that information in silence. No one had ever made it out. Every group that entered a bottomless rift had died inside it. They were attempting something that had a 0% success rate across centuries. The golden text appeared. Quest. Maintain party morale through floor 16. No member may fall below functional psychological baseline. Reward. Beacon of warmth multiplied by 1. Portable shelter upgrade multiplied by 1. He understood. The dungeon was not just attacking their bodies anymore, it was attacking their minds. The knowledge that no one had ever survived was a weapon more dangerous than any monster. He needed to counter it. He made camp on the largest platform. He set up the tent. He cooked. Not survival food, a proper meal. He used every skill the alchemy station had given him. Rice cooked with starfruit that gave it a faint sweetness. Broth enriched with iron root for depth. Dried meat seasoned with spices he had been saving. Mushrooms from the 7th floor sautéed in rendered fat. The smell was absurd. In a void between fake stars on a stone platform suspended over infinity, Dojin made a meal that smelled like a kitchen on a Sunday afternoon. Nari helped him cook. She had become his sous chef over the last several floors. Her hands were quick and careful. She sliced vegetables with the same precision she used for healing. She asked Dojin if he was scared. He said yes. She asked what he was scared of. He said he was scared of not getting back to his sister. She nodded. She said she was scared of everything, but less than before. She said being scared near him was different from being scared alone. The meal brought everyone together. They sat in a circle on the platform. 6 people eating hot food in the void. Erin ate slowly. She was thinking. Doll ate quickly and went back for seconds. She no longer pretended she did not want them. Hyojin ate her large portion and then cleaned her axe. The orange veins glowed against the starfield behind her. Seum ate with her notes in her lap. She was cross-referencing the platform writings with her earlier translations. After the meal, Dojin distributed potions, calming tonics for everyone. Mild, just enough to take the edge off the void's psychological pressure. He sat with each person individually. He asked Doll how her vision was holding. She said it was perfect. She paused. Then she said she was sorry for calling him ballast on the first day. He said she had called him a bellboy. She said she had called him both on different occasions. He said he had not noticed. She said that was a lie. He agreed that it was a lie. She laughed, short and sharp and real. It was the first time he had heard Doll laugh. He talked with Siam about the platform writings. She showed him the patterns she had found. Every group that entered a rift had been drawn in, not by accident, by design. The strongest hunters in a region would receive information about a gate. They would enter it. The gate would close. They would descend. They would die. It had happened dozens of times across centuries and across continents. The rifts appeared everywhere: Korea, Europe, South America, wherever hunters were strong enough to attract attention. He asked whose attention. She said that was the question. Something at the bottom was watching, selecting, drawing in the strongest and consuming them. She called it the collector. Dojin asked why the system was different. Why was he being given tools to survive when everything else about the rift was designed to kill? Sam said she had a theory. She said the system was not part of the collector's design. It was a flaw, a counter mechanism that activated under specific conditions, conditions that had never been met before. He asked what conditions. She said she did not know for certain, but she believed the trigger was altruistic action under mortal threat. Every group that entered a rift was composed of fighters, killers, people trained to survive by being stronger than what opposed them. When resources ran low, they competed. When pressure mounted, they fractured. No one had ever entered a rift whose first instinct under threat was to protect someone else. Until Dojin dragged Hyojin out from under a monster on the 3rd floor with nothing but his hands and his porter bag. He was quiet for a long time after that. The quest notification pulsed. Complete. All members above functional psychological baseline. Morale maintained. The beacon of warmth materialized in his inventory, a small crystal sphere that radiated gentle heat and soft golden light. He placed it in the center of the camp. The void retreated. The cold eased. The fake stars seemed less oppressive. 6 people sat in a circle of warmth on a platform floating in nothing. and for a moment the dungeon could not touch them. Floors 17 through 20 blurred together in Dojin's memory afterward. Each one was lethal. Each one should have killed them. The 17th floor was a swamp of black water where things grabbed from below. Dojin brewed a repellent from his archive that made the creatures release on contact. The 18th was a furnace, a corridor of liquid fire where the walls themselves were molten. He coated everyone in a flame-resistant salve that held for exactly the 40 minutes they needed to cross. The 19th was a puzzle floor, locked doors that opened only when specific symbols were pressed in sequence. Seim and Dojin worked them together, her analysis and his pattern recognition. They unlocked 9 doors in 2 hours. The 20th floor was the second guardian. It was waiting for them in a chamber of white marble. The floor was polished to a mirror shine. The ceiling was high and vaulted like a cathedral. The guardian stood in the center. It was beautiful, humanoid, female in shape, carved from white stone that moved like flesh. It had no weapons. It did not need them. It moved faster than anything they had fought. Erin's shield caught the first strike. The impact drove her backward 3 meters. Cracks spiderwebbed across the marble floor beneath her boots. Hyojin swung her axe. The guardian caught the blade in one hand. Fire erupted from the embedded guardian stone. The white guardian's hand did not burn. It squeezed. The axe handle groaned. Hyojin pulled back before it broke. Dahl fired from the back. Her arrows struck the guardian's body and shattered on impact. The white stone was harder than anything in her quiver. Sam hit it with ice and lightning and force blasts. Each attack landed. None left a mark. The guardian moved through them like wind through grass. It struck Sam in the chest and she flew into the wall. Nari caught her with a barrier at the last second. The impact was still enough to crack 2 ribs. Nari healed them immediately, but her face was white with strain. The guardian was toying with them. Dojin watched from behind a column. He could not fight. He had never been able to fight, but he could see. He watched the guardian move. He watched its patterns. It was fast, but not random. It followed sequences. Strike, retreat, circle, strike. Always clockwise, always targeting the person who had attacked most recently. It was a counterpuncher. It let them commit and then punished the commitment. He shouted to Erin. He told her to stop attacking. Just defend. Let it come to her. Erin trusted him. She planted her feet and raised her shield and stopped swinging. The guardian circled her. It struck. She blocked. It struck again. She blocked again. She did not counter. The guardian paused. For the first time, it hesitated. Its pattern was broken. It needed an attack to counter, and Erin was not giving it one. In that moment of hesitation, Dojin shouted to Hyojin, "Now, from the left!" The guardian's clockwise pattern meant its left side was always its trailing side, the vulnerable side. Hyojin came in fast and low. Her axe hit the guardian's left knee. Fire erupted. The white stone cracked. The guardian stumbled. Dal put an arrow into the crack. It sank in deep. Seim hit the same spot with a focused beam of pure mana. The crack widened. The guardian's leg buckled. It went to one knee. Erin stepped forward and drove her sword into the crack where the leg met the torso. The mirror glass core in her blade activated. The guardian's own reflected energy fed back into the wound. White stone shattered. The guardian collapsed. It broke apart on the marble floor. The pieces dissolved into light and the light faded. Silence. They stood in the white chamber, breathing hard. Dojin came out from behind his column. He was already carrying medical supplies. He reached Seim first. Her ribs were healed, but she was shaking from the force of the impact. He wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and gave her a restoration potion. He moved to Nari, who had depleted herself healing during the fight. He gave her a mana potion. She drank it and color flooded back into her face. He checked Aaron's shield arm. Bruised from the impacts, but functional. He applied salve. He checked Hyojin. Unhurt, but exhausted. He gave her a stamina potion and a protein-dense ration pack. She ate it in 2 minutes. Dal was unhurt. She lowered her bow and looked at Dojin. She said he had read that thing's pattern in 30 seconds. She said most combat analysts with years of training could not have done that. He said he was not a combat analyst. He was a porter. Porters watched. That was what they did. They stood in the back and watched everything. She said he needed to stop calling himself a porter. He said he did not know what else to call himself. The golden text appeared. Quest. Defeat the floor 20 guardian using tactical coordination. Complete. Reward. Legendary crafting material multiplied by 3. Guardian core essence multiplied by 1. The guardian core sat in his inventory. He could feel it, dense with power. Combined with the legendary fragment from the Bracer's quest, he now had materials that could forge something extraordinary. A new quest followed immediately. Forge a legendary weapon for the party leader. Requirements: Guardian core essence. Legendary material fragments multiplied by 3. Forge temperature above 2,000 degrees. Time requirement: 6 hours minimum. Reward: hidden. He looked at Aaron's sword. Good steel, well maintained, but standard. A surface weapon in a dungeon that went deeper than anyone had ever gone. She needed something better. They all did. He needed 6 hours and a forge hot enough to melt Guardian Core. He could manage that. He set up camp in the marble chamber. He built the forge station. He stoked the fire with fuel tabs and mana crystal powder until the coals glowed white hot. Then hotter. The air above the forge shimmered. He began to work. He took Aaron's sword apart. He separated the blade from the guard and the guard from the grip. He placed the blade in the forge alongside the Guardian Core and the legendary fragments. The metal and the crystal and the unknown material began to merge at temperatures that made his face sting from 5 paces away. He hammered, hour after hour, shaping the new blade with strikes that followed patterns the system had planted in his mind. Each blow precise, each adjustment measured by feel and instinct, and knowledge he had not been born with, but had earned floor by floor, quest by quest. Aaron sat nearby and watched him work. She did not speak. She did not sleep. She watched the man who carried their supplies forge a sword for her, with hands that should not have known how, but did. After 6 hours, he pulled the blade from the coals. It was white. Not white hot, white. The color of the guardian's stone. The edge was perfect. The balance was perfect. He fitted a new guard made from mirror glass and wrapped the grip in silk-bound leather, reinforced with mana crystal threading. He held it up. The blade caught the light and threw it back in prisms. He presented it to Aaron. She took it with both hands. She tested the weight. She swung it once. The air split with a sound like tearing silk. She looked at the blade, then at him. Her eyes were bright. She said she did not have words. He said she did not need them. She held the sword against her chest for a moment. Then she sheathed it and turned away. Her shoulders shook once, just once. Nobody mentioned it. The 21st floor was quiet. That was the most unsettling thing about it. After 20 floors of monsters and guardians and environments designed to kill, the 21st floor was an empty hallway. Long, straight, lit by soft amber light from sources embedded in the walls. The floor was smooth stone. The air was still. No sound, no movement, nothing. They walked for an hour. The hallway did not change. Same width, same light, same silence. Nari said it felt like walking inside a throat. Nobody appreciated the metaphor, but nobody disagreed. At the end of the hallway, they found a room. Not a chamber or a cavern. A room. It had walls and a ceiling at a normal height, and a floor that was flat and even. In the center of the room was a table. A real table. Wood. Chairs around it. 6 chairs. On the table were plates. Empty. Clean. Waiting. Sam said nothing for a long time. Then she said this was a message. Whoever built the dungeon knew exactly how many of them there were and had prepared this space for them specifically. The table was set for 6. Not 5 hunters and a porter. 6 people. Equal. Dojin set up camp in the room. It felt strange to pitch a tent in a space with a ceiling and a table, like camping inside a house. He cooked on the table because it felt like the thing to do. The meal was elaborate. He had ingredients from 7 different floors: mushrooms and starfruit and dried meats and herbs and broth base and spices. He made 6 different dishes, one for each person, tailored to their tastes and nutritional needs. Aaron's was rich and savory, high protein, dense carbohydrates, fuel for a tank. Hyojin's was the largest portion. Red meat with iron root seasoning for muscle recovery. She needed volume and density. Doll's was lighter, clean flavors, grilled fruit and lean meat. She ate with precision, like she did everything else. Nari's had extra starfruit. She had developed a fondness for the sweetness. He added velvet moss for the honey-like undertone she liked. She smiled when she tasted it. Sam's was paired with a clarity tonic that she now drank with every meal. Brain food. Complex flavors for a complex mind. Dojin ate last. He always ate last. But this time, Aaron told him to sit. She said he had earned a chair at the table. He sat. It was the first time he had eaten at the same level as the rest of them. Not crouched by his pack. Not standing by the stove. At the table. Nari poured him water. Hyojin pushed a plate of extra meat toward him. Doll said nothing, but she moved her chair slightly to make room. 5 women and 1 man sitting at a table in a dungeon, eating a meal that should not have existed. The golden text did not appear. No quest, no reward, just dinner. After the meal, they talked. Really talked. Not about the dungeon or strategy or what floor came next. Aaron talked about her previous team, the one she had lost. 4 hunters, 3 years together. They had entered a standard A-rank gate, and the floor had collapsed beneath them. She got out. They did not. She had not spoken about it since the funeral. Doll talked about why she became a hunter. Money, pure and simple. She grew up poor. Hunting paid well. She was good at killing things and bad at everything else. She said it like a joke. It was not a joke. Hyojin did not talk. She listened, but she moved her chair closer to the group as the night went on. By the end, she was sitting shoulder to shoulder with Nari. For Hyojin, that was a speech. Nari talked about her family, parents who had not wanted her to become a hunter, a younger brother who thought she was a superhero. She missed them. She wondered if they knew she was alive. She wondered if anyone on the surface was trying to reach them. Sam talked about the dungeon. She could not help it. It was how she processed. She said she had been translating the platform writings in her head for days. She had found a pattern. The collector at the bottom did not just consume hunters. It absorbed their abilities. Every group that died in a rift made the collector stronger. It fed on the strongest humanity had to offer. And the rifts were accelerating, more frequent, deeper. The collector was hungry and getting hungrier. She said if they did not reach the bottom and stop it, this rift would be followed by another and another, until something strong enough came through that could not be contained by gates or raids or any defense humanity had built. Dojin listened to all of it. He sat at the table with these 5 people who had entered this dungeon as strangers and were now something else. He did not have a word for what they were. Family was close, but not quite right. Family was blood, an obligation. This was choice. 5 people who chose to sit at a table with him, who chose to trust him, who chose to let him carry what they could not carry themselves. He cleared the plates and washed them with water from his flask. He dried them and set them back on the table. Then he sat back down and said he had something to tell them. He told them about the system, everything, the quests, the rewards, the inventory, the way it appeared in his vision and responded to his intentions, the upgrade at floor 10, the forging knowledge, the alchemy, all of it. He had kept it secret for 21 floors. He could not keep it anymore. Not from them. They deserved to know. Silence. Erin spoke first. She asked why he was telling them now. He said because they were sitting at a table that was set for 6. Because whoever built this place already knew. Because secrets between people who depend on each other are just weights that slow you down. And he was tired of carrying weight that did not help anyone. Doll leaned back in her chair. She said that explained the bottomless bag and the magical cooking and the weapon forging. She said she had assumed he was secretly a genius craftsman who moonlighted as a porter for fun. He said he was a porter who moonlighted as a genius craftsman because a voice in his head gave him quests. She said that was less cool, but more interesting. Sam's eyes were wide. She asked him to describe the system interface in detail. He did. She wrote everything down. She filled 10 pages. She said the system was the counter mechanism she had theorized about, the thing that should not exist in the collector's design. She said Dojin was proof that the rift could be beaten, that someone or something had built a failsafe into the trap, a back door. And the key to that back door was a man who cared more about other people than about himself. Nari took his hand under the table. She held it. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Hyojin stood up. She walked to where her axe leaned against the wall, the fire-veined blade that Dojin had forged for her. She picked it up and brought it back to the table and set it down in front of him. Then she sat back down. Dojin looked at the axe. He looked at Hyojin. She said it was his. He had made it. She would wield it for him, but it was his. In her way, she was saying that she was his too. His to command, his to direct, his to protect and be protected by. Erin drew her white sword and laid it on the table beside the axe. Doll unstrung her bow and placed it next. Siam set her staff alongside. Nari placed her hands palm up on the table. Her healing light glowed softly. 5 weapons and 5 women, and 1 porter who had brought them all to a table in the dark. Erin said they would reach the bottom. She said it not as a hope or a wish, but as an order. They would reach the bottom, and they would kill the collector, and they would go home. All 6 of them. Dojin looked at the table, at the weapons, at the faces around him. He thought about Do-won, about the candy the system had given him on the first floor that he still carried in his pack, about the surface, about sunlight. He nodded. He said they should get some sleep. They had a long way down. The floors below 21 grew stranger. The dungeon stopped pretending to be a natural space. Floors 22 through 25 were mechanical. Gears the size of buildings turned in the walls. Pistons fired from the ceiling. Corridors shifted and rearranged while they walked through them. The dungeon was alive, and it was watching them, and it was adjusting. Siam said the collector was aware of them now, not as a vague presence, as a direct intelligence. It had noticed that this group was not dying on schedule, and it was recalibrating. The monsters changed. They were no longer beasts or guardians. They were constructs, built from the remains of previous hunters. On the 23rd floor, they fought a creature wearing the armor of the Korean military squad that had reached floor 38 43 years ago. The armor was real. The thing inside it was not. It moved with a soldier's training. It fought with a soldier's discipline. but its eyes were empty and its mouth hung open, and it made no sound when Hyojin's axe split it from shoulder to hip. After the fight, Erin was quiet for a long time. She said those soldiers had families. Dojin collected the armor fragments and said nothing. Later that night, he used the forge to break them down. He separated the human-made steel from the dungeon corruption. He cleaned each piece. He could not return them to the surface, but he could make sure they were not worn by monsters again. Seum watched him work. She asked why he bothered. The soldiers were dead. The armor was just metal. He said it was not just metal to the people who had worn it. She was quiet after that. She wrote something in her notes. He did not ask what. Floor 26 was a library. Shelves carved from black stone held tablets covered in the same script from the dead city. Thousands of them, a complete record. Seum spent 4 hours reading while the others rested. Her new crystal staff and clarity tonics let her process information at a rate that would have been impossible on the surface. She emerged from the stacks with a look on her face that Dojin had not seen before. Not excitement, not fear. Understanding. She gathered the group. She said the tablets told the full story. The collector was not a monster. It was a system. A machine built by a civilization that had existed long before humans. They had created the rifts as training facilities, selection courses. The strongest individuals would descend and be tested, and the survivors would emerge more powerful than before. It was meant to be a gift, a way to elevate species across worlds. But the machine had broken, or evolved, or gone mad. Without its creators to maintain it, the selection process had lost its purpose. It no longer elevated survivors because there were no survivors. The tests had become lethal. The machine kept drawing in the strongest and kept killing them, and kept absorbing their power because that was what it was built to do. It could not stop. It did not know how to stop. Dojin asked about the supplier system. Seum said the tablets described it as a maintenance protocol, a repair function embedded in the machine's original design. When the system detected that the selection process was failing catastrophically, it was supposed to activate a support mechanism, someone who could keep candidates alive long enough to reach the core and reset the machine. But the activation conditions were specific. The support mechanism required a host who acted selflessly under mortal threat, without any power or ability to fall back on. Pure altruism from pure vulnerability. In thousands of years of broken operation, no one had ever met those conditions. Until a porter with no combat ability dragged a wounded stranger out from under a monster because it was the right thing to do. Dojin sat with that knowledge. He was not chosen. He was not special. He was a maintenance protocol, a repair tool activated by accident. The system did not care about him. It cared about fixing the machine. Nari said that was not true. She said the system gave him quests about feeding people and keeping them warm and making them feel safe. A machine that only cared about repairs would not reward someone for cooking soup. The system cared about what he cared about. It had shaped itself around his nature, around his need to provide. It was not using him. It was amplifying him. He looked at her. She looked back with those steady eyes. He decided she was right. It did not matter why the system had chosen him. It mattered what he did with it. The golden text appeared. New quest. Reach floor 30. All party members alive. Reward. Legendary equipment set. Full party. He showed them the quest. Sam transcribed it into her notes. Erin said 5 floors. They could do 5 floors. They had done worse. They descended. Floors 27 through 29 were combat floors. Pure and relentless. Waves of constructs. Amalgamations of absorbed hunters fused together into things that should not have been able to move, but did. The fights were brutal. Erin's white sword cut through constructs that would have been immune to her old blade. Hyojin's fire axe burned the corruption out of everything it touched. Dao's self-calibrating bow let her fire faster and more accurately than ever. Nari's passive regeneration grip meant she could heal continuously without collapsing. Sam's amplified staff turned her from a support mage into a siege weapon. And behind them, Dojin kept everything running. Potions between fights, field repairs during rest stops, hot meals when they made camp, fresh weapon coatings every morning. He brewed a resistance compound specifically for construct corruption. It made their skin tingle and smell like iron, but nothing the constructs touched could infect or corrode their equipment. On floor 29, Nari took a hit. A construct broke through Erin's line and swung a fused limb at the healer. Dojin stepped between them. He had no weapon, no armor, no power. He had a porter's bag full of cooking supplies. The limb hit the bag. The impact threw Dojin sideways. He hit the ground and rolled. His left arm went numb. The bag's contents absorbed most of the force, but most was not all. Hyojin killed the construct before it could swing again. Nari healed Dojin's arm before he finished standing up. Her hands shook while she worked. She said if he ever did that again, she would hurt him worse than any monster could. He said he would keep that in mind. Doll said she had heard that line before. Floor 30 arrived like a sunrise. The staircase opened into a vast chamber filled with golden light. Not amber, not yellow, gold. The same gold as the system text. The walls were covered in the ancient script, but here the words glowed. Sam read them aloud. They said, "Welcome." They said, "You have come further than any before." They said, "The core awaits." In the center of the chamber, 6 pedestals stood in a circle. On each pedestal was a set of equipment. Armor, weapons, accessories. Each set was different. Each was designed for a specific person. Dojin walked to the nearest pedestal. The armor was white with gold threading. A shield bearer's set. Erin's name was not written anywhere, but it did not need to be. The armor was shaped for her frame, balanced for her fighting style. He recognized the materials. Guardian core, legendary fragments, mana crystal, mirror glass, spider silk. Everything he had collected and could not use was reflected in these designs, amplified beyond anything he could have forged alone. The system had taken his work and completed it. Each pedestal held a masterwork. Hyojin's set was dark red with veins of fire. Doll's was silver green and light as air. Nari's was white with a soft glow. Sam's was deep blue with crystal inlays. The 6th pedestal held a set for Dojin, not armor, a coat. Long, dark, lined with pockets and pouches and loops for tools. A craftsman's coat, a provider's coat. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Quest complete. Legendary equipment set distributed. All party members alive. They suited up in silence. Each piece fit perfectly. Erin's white gold armor made her look like something out of legend. Hyojin tested her new gear, and the air around her shimmered with heat. Dal drew her new bow, and the string sang a note so pure it hung in the golden chamber like music. Nari's staff pulsed with healing light that filled the room. Sayum's crystal array gave her eyes that glowed faintly blue. Dojin put on his coat. It was warm. The pockets were already organized. The tools sat where his hands expected them to be. He buttoned it and straightened the collar. Dal looked at him. She said he almost looked dangerous. He said he would try not to let it go to his head. Below floor 30, the dungeon shed its skin. The walls were no longer stone or crystal or metal. They were organic, smooth and pale and warm to the touch, like the inside of something living. The corridors pulsed, a rhythm, slow and deep, like a heartbeat. They were inside the machine now, not walking through it, inside it. Seum said the boundary between dungeon and collector had dissolved. Everything below this point was the core entity. They were walking through its body. The thought should have been revolting. It was, but they kept walking. Floors 31 through 35 were a descent through anatomy, corridors of tissue and membrane, chambers that contracted and expanded like lungs, fluid that ran along channels in the floor. The monsters here were not constructs. They were antibodies. The machine recognized intruders and sent its defenses. White, shapeless things that flowed like liquid and struck like hammers. They reformed after every cut. Hyojin's fire was the only thing that stopped them permanently. She burned a path through the machine's immune system, one corridor at a time. Her new armor channeled the heat. She was incandescent, a walking furnace. Eren held the front beside her. The white gold armor turned blows that would have killed her in her old gear. Her legendary sword cut through antibodies and cauterized the wounds so they could not reform. Dahl fired from behind. Her new bow launched arrows that split into 3 on release. Each one found a separate target. Sam mapped the path. Her amplified senses let her read the machine's structure. She guided them through passages and around traps that they never would have seen without her. Nari healed, constantly. The machine leaked toxic fluid from its walls. Every breath carried trace amounts of something corrosive. Nari's sustained healing aura kept it from accumulating in their systems. Without her, they would have been dead in an hour. And Dojin. Dojin kept them fed and supplied and repaired and functional. He brewed antitoxin compounds between fights. He cooked meals in the belly of a living machine using a portable stove and ingredients from 15 different floors. He repaired armor that the antibodies corroded. He sharpened blades that dulled against organic tissue. He distributed potions with the precision of a field medic. His coat's pockets never seemed to run out. The system fed him quests at a pace that matched the danger. Keep the party's toxin levels below critical. Maintain weapon integrity in corrosive environment. Ensure caloric intake meets combat expenditure. Brew a sealant for organic armor damage. The rewards were no longer individual items. They were upgrades to his existing capabilities. His alchemy station could now process organic materials. His forge could work with living metal. His medical knowledge expanded to include xenobiological first aid. He was evolving alongside the dungeon. On floor 33, they found the bones. Thousands of them. Hunters from every era, every nationality. Armor from centuries past lay scattered among modern tactical gear. Weapons rusted and new. All of them embedded in the walls like fossils. The machine had absorbed them, digested their power, kept their remains as trophies or fuel, or both. Nari stopped walking. She stood in front of a section of wall where a hand reached out from the tissue. A human hand. Preserved. Frozen in the act of grasping for something that was not there. She touched it gently. She said she was sorry. Dojin stood beside her. He did not rush her. He let her grieve for people she had never met. When she was ready, she turned and kept walking. Her eyes were dry, but her jaw was set. She was angry. Good. Anger was fuel down here. Floor 35 ended in a sphincter. There was no other word for it. A circular opening in the organic wall that contracted and relaxed in rhythm with the pulse around them. Beyond it was darkness. Not the light-eating darkness of floor 9, a different kind. The darkness of depth. Of something so far down that light had never reached it. Seum said the core was beyond. One more passage, one more floor, then the collector itself. Eren gathered the group. She said what needed to be said. They had gone further than anyone in recorded history. They had survived what no one had survived. Whatever was beyond that opening was the thing that had killed thousands of hunters across centuries. It was ancient and powerful, and it had been absorbing the strength of the best fighters humanity had ever produced. She said they were going to kill it anyway. She said she trusted every person in this group with her life. She said that trust had been earned, floor by floor, meal by meal, potion by potion. She looked at Dojin when she said that. They all did. He adjusted his coat. He checked his pockets. Potions, salves, antitoxins, repair materials, rations, everything they could need. His inventory was deeper than it had ever been. The system had been preparing him for this moment since floor 1. Every quest, every reward, every skill, all of it pointed here. The golden text appeared. Final quest. Bring all party members to the surface alive. Reward hidden. He read it and felt something settle in his chest. Not fear, not confidence. Purpose. He had been carrying other people's bags his whole life. This was the last carry, the heaviest, the one that mattered. He would not drop it. They stepped through the opening. The passage beyond was short, 10 meters. The walls were smooth and warm. The pulse was loud here. Not a sound, a vibration that went through bone. At the end of the passage, the space opened. They stood on a ledge overlooking a chamber so vast the far walls were lost in shadow. The floor was hundreds of meters below. In the center of the chamber, something sat. It was enormous, a mass of organic tissue and absorbed metal and crystal and bone woven together into a shape that almost resembled a throne. On the throne sat the collector. It had a face, assembled from fragments of 1,000 absorbed hunters, eyes that did not match, a mouth that was too wide, hands made of fused weapons. It looked at them with those mismatched eyes, and Dojin felt it see him. Not the group, him. The maintenance protocol, the error in its system, the thing that should not have made it this far. It spoke, not in words, in pressure, in meaning pushed directly into their minds. It said it had been waiting. It said they were the strongest meal it had been offered in decades. It said the one with the golden light was interesting, a malfunction it had not anticipated. It said it would consume him last so it could understand how he worked. Dojin looked at the collector. He looked at the face made of stolen parts. He thought about the hand in the wall on floor 33, the one reaching for something. He thought about Dawn, about the candy in his pocket, about the table set for 6. He reached into his coat and began distributing final preparations. Combat potions for Eren and Hyojin, precision elixirs for Dal, mana reservoirs for Seum and Nari, antitoxin boosters for everyone, resistance coatings on every weapon, armor sealant on every joint. The collector watched him work. It did not attack. It was curious. It had never seen a human prepare like this. It had only ever seen them charge or flee or break. It did not understand what it was looking at. Dojin finished his preparations. He stepped back. He looked at Eren. She drew her white sword. The blade caught the dim light and blazed. She looked at him and nodded. He nodded back. She jumped. Eren fell like a comet. Her white gold armor blazed as she dropped toward the chamber floor. The collector rose from its throne. It was larger standing, 10 meters tall. Its body unfolded in sections of fused metal and bone and living tissue. Arms emerged from its torso, 4 of them, each ending in a weapon taken from a dead hunter, a sword, a spear, an axe, a staff crackling with stolen magic. Eren hit the ground and rolled. The collector's sword arm came down where she had landed. The floor shattered. Stone and organic matter sprayed outward. She was already moving. Shield up, white blade out. She carved a line across the collector's nearest leg. The wound opened and closed immediately. Regeneration. The machine repaired itself. Hyojin landed next. She came in burning. Her armor radiated heat that made the air warp. Her axe struck the same leg Eren had cut. Fire poured into the wound. The regeneration slowed, could not close around flame. The collector screamed. Pressure in their skulls, meaning without words. Pain. Anger. How dare they? Doll did not jump. She stayed on the ledge, 300 meters above the chamber floor. Optimal range. Her bow sang. Arrows split into threes and rained down on the collector's upper body. Each one found a joint or a seam or a crack. The collector swatted at them with its 4 arms. Most shattered on impact. Some got through. Sayum stood at the ledge edge. Her staff blazed blue. She analyzed the collector's structure in real time. She shouted down to the others. The core was in the chest, behind 3 layers of fused armor plating. They needed to breach all 3. She began her assault. Beams of focused mana struck the collector's chest. Each one targeted a specific structural weakness she could see with her enhanced senses. The first layer of plating cracked. Nari descended on a platform of healing light. She positioned herself behind Eren and Hyojin. Her aura expanded. A dome of white energy that accelerated healing and neutralized the toxic air. Inside the dome, they could breathe freely, fight freely. She was their life support, their atmosphere, their safety net. The collector attacked with all 4 arms simultaneously. Eren blocked the sword. The impact drove her to one knee. Hyojin dodged the axe and countered with a rising cut that severed 2 fingers from the weapon hand. The spear arm thrust at Nari. She raised a barrier. It held. Barely. The staff arm fired a bolt of stolen magic at Doll on the ledge. She threw herself sideways. The bolt hit the wall behind her and melted a crater in the stone. Dojin moved. He did not fight. He would never fight. But he moved through the battlefield like he had moved through every floor. Watching. Thinking. Providing. Eren's sword edge was corroding from contact with the collector's blood. He ran to her between attacks and applied a fresh coating of sealant. 3 seconds. She was back in the fight with a clean blade. Hyojin was burning too hot. Her armor channeled fire, but her body was overheating inside it. He pressed a cooling tonic into her hand as she pulled back from a swing. She drank it without breaking stride. Nari's mana was draining fast. The healing dome consumed energy at a rate that would empty her in minutes. He placed a mana reservoir crystal at her feet. She absorbed it through the soles of her boots. Her dome brightened. Sayum's second blast cracked the collector's second armor layer. The creature roared. The sound was physical. It knocked Dojin off his feet. He rolled and got up. His ears rang. Blood dripped from his nose. He wiped it and kept moving. The collector changed tactics. It stopped trying to swat them individually. Its 4 arms drove into the ground. The chamber floor split. Fissures raced outward from the throne. Organic tendrils erupted from the cracks. Hundreds of them. They wrapped around ankles and wrists and weapons. Hyojin burned through hers, but more came. Eren cut and cut, but each severed tendril spawned 2 more. Doll's arrows could not target something that came from everywhere. Nari's barriers held against the tendrils, but the strain was visible on her face. White-knuckled, jaw clenched. Dojin saw the problem. The tendrils were coming from the floor, from the machine's body. The entire chamber was the collector. The floor, the walls, the throne. All of it was one organism, and they were standing inside it. He opened his inventory. He had 1 compound he had not used. The resistance sealant he had developed for construct corruption. He had brewed gallons of it across multiple floors, enough to coat 6 people, but not enough to coat a chamber. Then he looked at the portable forge, at the alchemy station, at the mana crystal powder, at the organic processing upgrade the system had given him. He could not coat the chamber, but he could poison it. He set up the alchemy station in the middle of a battlefield. His hands moved with a speed and precision that the system had built into him over 35 floors of practice. He combined the resistance sealant with mana crystal powder and a concentrated extract of Hyojin's fire element drawn from a vial of residue he had collected when forging her axe. He added antitoxin compounds and neutralizing agents and a catalyst from the garden's iron root. The result was a liquid that glowed orange-red and smelled like burning metal. He poured it into every empty container he had. Vials, flasks, cooking pots. He shouted to Sam. He told her to give him 30 seconds of suppressive fire on the chest. Keep the collector focused upward. She did not question him. She unleashed everything she had. Blue beams hammered the collector's chest. The third armor layer cracked. The creature screamed and raised all 4 arms to shield its core. 30 seconds. Dojin ran. He poured the liquid into every fissure he could reach, into the cracks in the floor, into the wounds Eren and Hyojin had opened, into the base of the tendril clusters. The compound soaked into the organic tissue and ignited. Not fire. Corruption in reverse. The sealant ate through the collector's regeneration. The tendrils withered. The floor stopped spawning new ones. The fissures sealed shut with dead tissue. The collector shrieked, a sound beyond hearing. Dojin felt it in his teeth and his bones. The creature thrashed. Its 4 arms swung wildly. One caught Dojin across the chest. He flew. The impact was like being hit by a truck. He landed hard. Something cracked in his ribs. The world went white with pain. Nari's healing hit him before he finished sliding across the floor. Warmth flooded his chest. The cracked ribs held. Did not heal completely, but held. He got to his feet. The collector's chest was exposed. 3 layers of armor breached. The core pulsed behind a thin membrane of tissue. Dojin could see it. A sphere of compressed light, every color, every frequency. The absorbed power of 1,000 hunters condensed into a single point. He looked at Eren. She was already looking at him. She understood. One strike, everything behind it. She charged. The collector saw her coming. Its arms came down to block. Hyojin intercepted 2 of them. Her axe screamed with fire as she held them back. Dahl put arrows through the joints of the 3rd arm. It seized and locked in place. Sam hit the 4th with a focused beam that pinned it to the collector's own body. Nari dropped her dome and channeled everything into Eren. Not healing, amplification. Every scrap of mana she had left poured into the shield knight. Eren's armor blazed white. Her sword blazed white. She blazed white. She drove the blade into the collector's chest, through the membrane, into the core. The sphere cracked. Light erupted. Not an explosion, a release. The accumulated power of centuries of absorbed hunters blasted outward in a wave that filled the chamber. Dojin shielded his eyes. The light passed through him, through all of them. It carried voices, thousands of them, whispers in languages he did not understand. The last echoes of everyone the machine had consumed. Then silence. The collector slumped. Its body went rigid. The 4 arms dropped. The mismatched face went slack. The organic walls of the chamber began to gray, to harden, to die. The machine was shutting down. The pulse stopped. For the first time in 35 floors, there was no heartbeat in the walls. Just silence. Eren pulled her sword from the collector's chest. The blade was clean. She stumbled. Hyojin caught her. Nari sat down hard on the dead floor. Sam leaned on her staff. Dal lowered her bow. Her quiver was empty, every arrow spent. Dojin stood in the middle of the chamber in his craftsman's coat, with blood on his face and cracked ribs, and an alchemy station still sitting where he had left it, surrounded by empty vials and cooking pots. The golden text appeared. Final quest complete. All party members alive. Reward unlocked. The chamber shook. Not violently, gently, like something settling. The far wall split open. Behind it was light, not golden, not blue, not amber. White. Daylight. The gate. The way out. Dojin stared at it. He had not seen daylight in weeks. It looked impossible. It looked like a lie. But the air that came through smelled like rain and concrete and exhaust and city. It smelled like soul.